Now, biomedical researchers in Singapore can soon learn and share more about neurological diseases with the launch of the Brain Bank Singapore. It's a repository for brain and spinal cord tissues that was jointly set up by Nanyang Technological University, the National Healthcare Group and the National Neuroscience Institute.
Here to tell us more is the director of the Brain Bank, Professor Richard Reynolds, and Dr Adeline Ng, consultant neurologist at the National Neuroscience Institute. Thank you both for coming in and joining us this evening. Now, Professor Reynolds, I'll come to you first. Brain Bank's not totally uncommon here in Asia. There's one in India, one in China as well. What was the impetus to start one up here in Singapore?
There's a number of reasons. I think first thing is that Singapore has a really excellent internationally recognized neuroscience research community that has access to all the latest technological advances in biomedical research. And they had mentioned a couple of years ago, a number of them, that they actually really required access to high-quality human brain tissue for their research. So we're going to work very closely with them to work out exactly what it is they need so that we can provide very high-quality tissue in the right form so that they can carry out this research into brain disorders. The second reason is that we now know that our genetic background, our genetic makeup influences the way that our bodies respond to disease processes. And that can change in different ethnic groups because of the genetic background. So it's important, if we're carrying out research here in Southeast Asia on brain disorders, that we can supply brains with the genetic background of Southeast Asian populations. And the good thing about Singapore is you do have a varied ethnic grouping in Singapore that allows that to happen. And the final thing is that because this is a prospective brain donor scheme, so people sign up when they're still alive to donate the brain when they pass away, is that we can actually obtain good clinical information from them while they're still alive, so we can track their clinical history. So when we do study the brain, we look at the pathology in the brain, we can compare it with the symptoms they had during their life. And not many brain banks actually do that. So this is an advantage that we're going to put in place.
So when you study the brain, you can take an image, an imaging method, or you can do your post-mortem research. So those two methods, what kind of, the kind of information you get, does it vary?
So imaging methods such as CT or MRI scans of the brain, the advantages is that they are safe, they are non-invasive, and you can take a good snapshot of the brain. It gives you an idea of the size and the structure of the brain as a whole. But what it cannot do is look at the brain at a molecular level. And for that, you need post-mortem brain tissue, where researchers can then go down to the microscopic level, look at the brain cells, look at how proteins and other molecules interact to contribute to development of disease. And this is the way to go in discovering new drug targets for treatments.
Professor Reynolds, tell us more about the sort of process, collecting, storing, how this is going to work. You mentioned that one of the benefits in Singapore, if people come forward to say they want to donate, then you have their medical history. I suppose the earlier that someone donates, the longer you can track.
In that sense, yes, that's true. We can build up a picture over a long time of how the disease they have has developed. So what happens in the brain bank is that the next of kin, the relatives, know about their wish to donate their brain, and therefore when they die, we get a phone call very quickly, and then we have to arrange for the brain to be removed from the body by moving it to a facility where we've already arranged for them to carry out brain removal for us. So we then go and get that brain, and we carry it back in cold to our laboratory facility at LKC Medicine in Navina. And that's where the brain is prepared. So we slice the brain in a regulated way, a procedure that we've used for a number of years now. And then it's cut up into very small pieces and rapidly frozen. So it's kept at -80 degrees, which means it's useful for decades, effectively.
Yeah. We're looking at some shots right there of just different parts of the brain, and they're being cut in different ways. But, you know, I'm curious, Singapore and lots of other countries in the world are having this issue of an aging population. And with that in mind, are you hoping to perhaps specifically study some kind of diseases related to this? Or if not, what are your other hopes?
Well, we are seeing in the clinics and hospitals a growing number of patients with age-related neurological conditions, primarily dementia and Parkinson's disease. The thing with these two disorders is that it's a very chronic disorder with slow progressive decline, and this results in a huge burden on the patient and family. Current treatments don't actually stop or halt the progression of disease. So this is why both diseases are a very significant focus of Brain Bank Singapore. Additionally, we aim to study all types of brain disorders as well.
And what do you think is some of the misconceptions about brain banks then? I mean, we're all very familiar with blood banks, but brain banks sort of are on a whole other sort of different level of understanding. Professor Reynolds, any thoughts on misconceptions that people may have, and what do you think we should be, or how do you think we should be thinking about them?
I think one of the first things is, as you showed pictures of jars there with tissues in, I mean, there's still a misconception there that if you donate a tissue to a research facility, it'll get put in a jar and preserved and put on a shelf. And it couldn't be further from the truth, you know, that this tissue is used.
It illustrates the purpose well.
It illustrates the purpose well, but it's not what happens to tissue that comes into a bank such as ours. You know, the purpose of the bank is to bring tissue in, characterize it, provide it to researchers. So a real bank, things come in, they go out again.
Yeah.
So that's one of the misconceptions I think that's out there. And you had a few other...
I think we actually did a survey at the NNI, and we had Parkinson's patients who were keen to donate their brains, but they had misconceptions amongst family members that the body was going to be disfigured, that it would be too stressful for the family. So a large goal of Brain Bank Singapore is to educate the public that this won't happen, that the whole brain retrieval process does not cause any disfigurement, and it will try to be the least stressful as possible.
All right, well, thank you both for coming in and enlightening us on it. We learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
a pleasure.
Thank you
very much.
Professor Richard Reynolds, Director of the Brain Bank Singapore, and Dr Adeline Ng, Consultant Neurologist at the National Neuroscience Institute.